really quickly, we had a big announcement by James Gunn talking about DC Studios, and I'm curious where you guys all kind of stand. Chris, I'll go with you first. Let's not go super crazy, which I know Chris will give me a 12-hour disposition of how Superman is and James Gunn are meant to be together, and how Grant Morrison and all this stuff. But give me
Why
a
do you assume that that's what I'm going to say?
because you give everything 12-hour disposition.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily believe that James Gunn and
I
Superman
see. This is what I'm talking about. Just go. Just give what
put
thoughts
put
today.
words in
Go,
my
go,
mouth.
go,
What
go.
the hell else am I supposed to do?
I
but
didn't put words in your mouth. Anyway, go ahead.
respond? Um, no, I mean I actually gave a fair amount of thoughts on Twitter. I have a thread going that I don't think I'm actually done with yet, but when it comes to Superman specifically, it's encouraging. I mean, the fact that you have people who are in charge saying that they want to restore him as a symbol of hope, and that you have Gunn invoking a story like All Star and the way that he presents the idea to the public. I mean, for my money, All Star Superman is one of my favorite Superman stories. So, and one of the reasons why is because it goes out of its way to emphasize how exceptionally empathetic and intelligent and hopeful he is, and how he provides that to the universe around him. So, details are thin on the ground. That's fine. I mean, just in terms of like a pitch of like an emotional connection to try and get people on board, it's extraordinarily encouraging. And the fact that Superman is the beginning, as he should be in everything DC universe related, also very encouraging.
Thank you. That was perfect. Well done. All right, Mr. Michael Bailey. You told me a little bit. Where do you like the movies as much? Do you like are you more of a comic book guy with this stuff? I know you like the TV series, but are you kind of
Oh,
over superhero films?
no. Well, with the Superman film, I'm never over it. I just
Well,
can't
well,
quit it.
right. Yeah.
But no, I was I was more distracted these past couple of months over everyone losing their minds that Henry Cavill wasn't going to be Superman anymore, which is
Right.
sad on a certain level. But I think Chris and I discussed this at one point. This isn't our first rodeo. This isn't the first time that the Superman that was the Superman is not. This is, you know, I think this is like my fifth in overall. But what I liked hearing about there was two things I liked. One, that they said something to the effect of he's an old-fashioned character in a world that doesn't like old-fashioned things. I think that has a really good ring to it, because usually when they're pitching these things, it's, oh, we're gonna make him, we're gonna make him relevant to today's world. And James
Mhm.
Gunn seems to be like, no, we're just gonna do Superman. Seemed like the thing to do. I also was kind of fascinated. They said the Authority is going to be tied into it, so
Oh,
I'm wondering, are they going to be like pulling in bits of Action 775 with him having to deal with that? And is that going to be one of the like conflicts of the movie, is their version of justice version versus what Superman does? Um, I saw that, you mentioned that, he's been tweeting, James Gunn has been tweeting he's reading All Star Superman, and my first thought was, you want to start with the one where he dies? Not sure that that's bold, but I think it's more of what
or
Chris was
even
talking
bold.
about, what that story says about Superman, not directly adapting it. Um,
Yeah.
I
It's
think
the
it's way
hardest.
too.
It gets to the heart, right? It gets to the
Yeah.
heart of Superman.
So I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic about everything they announced except the Supergirl thing. Um, I'm kind
Really,
of I'm tired of angry Supergirl. I get it
that's
as a
fair.
take. It's legitimate. It just seems to be DC's go-to thing with it. Um,
You think it's overplayed?
yes. But I'm also really excited because there's going to be a Creature Commandos animated series, and that.
Which okay, I didn't know J and D Mateus is the one who created those, Michael.
Mhm.
I had no idea. So I'm in.
So, but that's my basic thought. I'm kind of excited about it.
Right on. Okay. El Corazon. What are we feeling?
I had all the feelings today, man. I try
You
and
were
temper
pumped, I can tell.
my exuberance with reality, because I mean
Right.
we've been here before when it comes to DC films, and well, maybe not DC Studios, but slates being announced and everything. And I really liked what I was hearing. I like the James Gunniness of something like the Creature Commandos being front and center, of Viola Davis continuing as Amanda Waller. The Superman thing was interesting because we've talked about it on this show, and I've been on another show on the Vigilante 39 podcast, and we talked about what we thought was going to happen. And the fact that we're getting a Superman movie July 11th of 2025 caught me by surprise, because that's for a movie that's still being written to and I would imagine would be effects heavy, that they're going to try and meet a summer 2025 date seems pretty ambitious. And yeah, we didn't get a lot of details, but the fact that it's called Superman Legacy, like immediately my mind went to John Kent, not Jonathan Kent. And then I also thought, like what other, the legacy of Superman, how we have Calvin Ellis and Val Zod and, the plethora of Supermen from across the multiverse that we've seen. And because they've talked about those other plans too. So I'm wondering how that title is going to fit into the tapestry, or if it's just the legacy of being Kryptonian and meshing that with, the legacy the Kents gave them. Like, I'm really curious to where Gunn's going to take it. I'm really excited. Really, really jazzed about The Brave and the Bold. I'm really happy that we get to have our cake and eat it too with the Batman Part 2, which we now have a date for, and The Brave and the Bold.
And it's called Batman Part 2, by the way. That's I honestly think it's kind of rad.
Yeah.
Like, it's very simple. I like the simplicity of it.
It's like The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2.
Yeah, word. Yeah, word. Exactly. Yeah.
So pretty stoked about that as well. And The Brave and the Bold, there was Thanksgiving. James Gunn had a charcuterie board, and like one of his pets was trying to eat it. In the background, people spotted the Grant Morrison Omnibuy, and people were like, "Oh my God, he's going to do this." He's like, "No, I'm just reading it because I like comics." Well, I mean, the art for Batman and Robin, what was it? Batman versus Robin, or Batman and Robin Must Die? I forget what that volume's called, but that's the art they used during the presentation.
Isn't it the third? It's like not the second arc. It's like the third or fourth. It's like towards the end of Dick Grayson's tenure as Robin, or I mean, as Batman. I mean, excuse me.
But I love all of Morrison's Batman, and so I was pretty excited that that's going to be the inspiration, and that we're going to get to see a live action Damian Wayne. So I'm really curious how we work that in. Is it going to be Dick as Batman, and that's how we're going to differentiate?
Dude, I would be
Batman.
Dude, I would lose my goddamn mind. I in the best way possible, because that would be the ultimate just swinging for the fences, and like, you know what, we're going to do something different and really driving home that legacy aspect maybe they're going for. I don't know. That's genius. I don't think so, Javi, but anyway,
yeah, but I think any way that they can differentiate the DCU Batman from the Reeves the Batman universe would be a good thing. And just, for me, like, my Robin was Tim Drake, and my Superboy was Connor. Like, for Jack, like, his Robin and Superboy are John and Damian. So anytime that he gets to have that, you got to give him a shot, man. But all that was really exciting. And you and I had a text conversation today where
we always do.
We thought it was interesting how for all this presentation, all the presentations we've seen in the past, they're like, here's a storyboard. Here's an artist conceptualization as Dwayne Johnson as The Rock, drawn by Jim Lee. But we didn't get that this time.
Nope.
We got actual comic book covers and comic book art panels, even for Viola Davis, who they said was Amanda Waller. They didn't show a picture from Peacemaker. They didn't show a picture from the Suicide Squad. They showed comic art of Amanda Waller.
Big deal.
Which, yeah. And we've seen DC at like the end of some of their promotions and trailers, like, here's 3 books for Black Adam. Here's Batman Year One and Long Halloween for the Batman. And it's really exciting as a comic book fan that they're pushing the comic angle of like, you like this? Here's some stories to go read. The announcement for Lanterns, which also sounds really amazing, that we're finally going to cross, hopefully, a finish line again with that show. You go to the Facebook page and the link will take you to, hey, here's 25 awesome Hal Jordans. Here's the other link. It takes you to John Stewart stories. So I really like that aspect of the promotion. Because I mean, that's why we're all here, is to talk comics.
Right. So I'm going to try to wrap this up here, and we'll move on to the awesome War World comics we'll talk about here in a second. But I want to just briefly mention that, first of all, I think this is all fantastic. There's a couple things I want to point out there. First of all, Gunn he's blowing my mind at how smart he is. He just knows how to work the audience. But listen, there's a couple of key things here I want to point out. One, notice he calls this whole thing gods and monsters. What differentiates this from like the counterpart of MCU? They don't have the gods and they don't have the monster aspect, really. It's not really their forte of Marvel Universe. And they have elements there, just like, whatever, but he's bringing out Superman, Supergirl, Themyscira, like these godlike infinite beings. And then also that monster aspect of like always, fun little things that differentiate this from Marvel automatically, which is genius, in my opinion. You're automatically showing the world, this is different. We're offering you a different side of this action science fiction, comic book world. That's not the MCU. This is not, and I think to its strengths, which I think is really good. And I think that the Superman you have to really drive home that godlike idea. I know, not like Snyder did with the whole Christ-like thing, but like really emphasize the power levels of these characters and the mythology of these characters that he's diving into, which I think is really interesting. And I think that you're leading with, I think, a strength of the DC universe. And I think that's really cool. I think that's really smart. You're automatically you're not trying to emulate Marvel. You're doing your own thing and going to your strengths. Interesting. Obviously, we could talk for days about Batman.
I just have one question
please.
real quick before we move on. If
Yes.
the Batman and the Batman Part 2 are like the Godfather and the Godfather Part 2, are we going to have like 16 years after the Batman Part 2, the Batman Part 3, and it's Dark Knight Returns?
No. It's going to be Matt Reeves, the Batman Coda, the death of Bruce Wayne.
Now that where we could get behind, right?
I'm just seeing like an older Bruce Wayne going, once I thought I was out and they dragged me back in. I mean, it was just,
no.
We already got that movie, honestly.
That is very true.
And it's not.
Oh,
good.
dude.
Anyway,
hush
so so here I take it back. The first half is good. The rest of the half is complete crap. So the thing is, anyway, the thing is with what I love about this, what Javi picked up exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, man, they led with comics. They didn't lead with the actors. Very fascinating. And one of the things that I thought that was really interesting, and I told Javi, and to bring it back to comics before we move it into the Superman War World stuff, I think that this has potential to do more for mainstream comics than the Marvel does. Now, just hear me out, and then I'll say it, and I'll make a piece, and we'll move on. The thing about it is that I want to show you what James Gunn's Twitter. This was, it's a couple hours ago when I did this. This is what his tweet did by itself. And what did he talk about? He talked about comic books, about the stories that you're going to read or watch or whatever. And he led with comics, like Javi said. He showed artwork from it, but he talked about his favorite stories. What makes that so important with this is that he's promoting comics just by talking about them very just casually, and that people are going, oh, like, with Marvel, we don't really have that. It's just like, oh, by the way, this is based off a comic. No one really cares. Like Walking Dead. Okay, whatever, this guy's, it's based off a comic. Cool. Like, I'll never forget. I was working with someone, this young girl. She's like, I'm like 20 years older than she is. We're talking, and she's like, I love The Walking Dead. I'm like, oh, you ever read the comic? She's like, it's a comic. It's like last year. This is not like recent stuff. I was like, what? Are you kidding? She had no idea. I think that the problem is you don't have someone like champion the comics like Disney, right? Disney doesn't need to champion comics because they don't need it, right? Warner Brothers is different. They've got money issues and they need to make money as much as possible. They want to find that revenue. And Marvel doesn't have someone like a Kevin Feige going out promoting the comics, but like, guys, read the comics. They're amazing. They're incredible. He's not doing that. I love Kevin Feige, but that's not his bag. James Gunn does that all the time. And look at this guy. The guy has people who care about what he says. And you know what? Like, the numbers prove it right here. This is just a few hours ago, his own Twitter handle. And what I'm saying by this, if he can get some hits and they can get some momentum of these films, there's no doubt in my mind that Warner Brothers is really going to promote the comic book medium way more than Disney ever has. And I think that's really pivotal because they have done, even the Batman, like they've done stuff with the Batman back in the day, like trying to promote things with the Batman, comic book promotion, things like that. If they can somehow catch some fire like the MCU has, I'm telling you, they will make sure people are trying to read, or at least try to get people to read comic books more. And I think that's pivotal and it's missing. And I think it's really disheartening that Marvel hasn't done a better job of that. And I think already James Gunn's done more in one tweet than Marvel has done in 10 years, in my opinion, of promoting the medium of comic books. And I just think that this is really important. And I think that James Gunn will definitely do the medium of comic books right. And he already has. And I just pray that it's successful because I think this could really propel the medium from a mainstream level anyway, into more of a broad mainstream audience. So as far as getting comics to people and getting them understanding and interested in comic books. So